Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Culture in Maine, Year 2. We have a very special episode tonight. It is a tribute to the faces of art in York County. So we're going to be visiting with crafters, leathermen, doing a studio tour of fine artists here in the city. It's a wonderful testament to the power of creating the visual arts, taking reality and turning it into something absolutely beautiful and something that can be taken home and shared. So sit back, relax, and enjoy our tour through the different styles of art and craft happening in the County of York.
Culture in Maine.
It is a place where the truth should be carried.
The arts and music scene really shows what people are about.
Share what's going on here in York.
It makes you feel like a family.
Local art has a face that most people can relate to.
Our community up here that sticks together.
Art is art.
Great potential with great artists, poets, singers, writers, directors, filmmakers. It's fantastic.
Everyone has a story to tell.
That moment, you have to capture that moment and share it with the rest of the world.
Showing something that maybe is not been seen before.
Without art, what good is life?
I am art. I've been art ever since I was born.
It really adds a great deal to our community.
We don't really need art to exist, but you need art to live.
Culture in Maine is important, and I think playing out is important, and playing open mics and playing wherever you can play. It's all about us all checking in with each other.
We are out on the street. In fact, the street we're out on today is Beaver Street, which is the heart of downtown York City's Arts and Cultural District. And today we are talking to the wild beast of the art community. And you'll find out exactly why I call her that later. But her name is Brenda Wintermyer, and she is an absolute steadfast fan of York City, one of its great artistic chroniclers, a teacher, a former graphic designer, and a beautiful, beautiful artist. We also got to have a beautiful conversation inside her studio located at 22 North Beaver Street here in York City. So let's go on up these stairs, sit down in the studio with Brenda, and learn all about one of York City's most accomplished, prolific, and inspirational creatives.
So back then, in my illustration days, I didn't really have a style. I couldn't, because I had to adapt to whatever style they wanted. To be trained, I think I really put emphasis on being trained. And it doesn't have, you have to have, I think, training. I really encourage all artists, young artists coming into the art industry and the art community here. Yes, we can paint from our intuition and our emotion, and paint from the hip and spiritual. All my art's painted that way. All the art's on the wall was painted that way because these were not commissions. Right. So I paint very emotionally and spiritually. Like I said, I work hard to shut my brain down.
But don't you think that's because you have the muscle memory of the technical skill?
Exactly.
So you're never truly painting without it. I'm never truly.
Exactly. My hand is so confident. My hand is so confident.
Exactly.
That people come in and they'll look at my paintings like I did for Folklore Park and over the holidays and say, now how long did it take you to do that little 6x6? How long did it take you to do that? And I'll say, well, I probably sat in front of my easel for about 2 hours for that canvas. And then I look out at them and I say, plus 40 years. With my art now, there are sometimes very subtle changes, and sometimes there's real obvious changes in my approach to my canvas. I mean, I'll show you later, we'll look around, but you could take one painting and look at another painting and you'd be like, really, is that the same artist? So I still do mix it up at times because I can, but anyway, to get back to your question originally, I did the graphic design and the illustration, and that led me into teaching then, because I wanted to gradually get away from doing illustration and graphic design, because I wanted to start prepping myself, weaning myself off of that and prepping myself for being a full-time painter.
So you knew
which
that
was always
the
my goal.
direction.
Yeah, that has always been my goal ever since I was a young artist. I want to be a full-time painter someday. And so I set my day as when I was in my 50s. When I turn 50, I'm going to do this. And so then I started teaching. And I taught at Art Institute and York College. So I taught my skills, my hand skills, illustration, drawing, figure drawing, that type of thing. And I did that for a decade. And that was weaning me off of my illustration, my freelance illustration job. And then took me into teaching. And then eventually I just, okay, I'm 50 now, so
TikTok.
Okay, I'm 50, so in another couple years I gotta be doing this. This is my time. And that's what I did. And I quit my teaching, and but I didn't really quit teaching. But I quit teaching in the university arena. And so now here I am in this great space, and I'm still using my illustration skills. I'm still using my design skills, because you can't be a painter without being a designer. You have to be able to design space.
Controversial statement.
You gotta be a designer. It's all about design.
So do you actually map out a fully composed painting in your head before you begin? Do you say, okay, I want this space to be occupied by these objects. I want this much background. I want this kind of impact from the layout.
It depends on the painting. There are some paintings that are strictly intuitive. I set up and I don't want any boundaries. I don't want any limitations. It's strictly intuitive. I don't intellectualize it. I take away my intellect, and I strictly am intuitive. So I get my brush and I just begin drawing with my brush, and I design my canvas. I compose my negative shapes, my positive forms. I design my shapes, my space with my brush. It's composed, it's designed, it's balanced, but it's not, but it's large. It's like into your face. Do you know what I'm saying? And so I think, look at the hydrangeas back there. Look how they come into you. It's like, it makes you go like, oh, you go into it like it's like.
The hydrangeas are like coming out to you.
And they engage. They're engaging you. They're actually taking a hold of you and grabbing you. So that's what I think is more. Me personally, I think that's what's more interesting about that art, more than my color. I think my color is interesting, but I think it's more how I design my canvas to engage the viewer. Artists know good art. There's levels of art. And artists know, professional seasoned artists know good art when they see it. And you gotta pay your dues. You can't just pretend. You know, you have to really know, what makes that an abstract? What am I abstracting?
So have you found that within the art community here in this area that there was a strong knowledge base and a real sense of connection?
Yeah, there's some wonderful abstract artists here, young abstract artists, who really have a good handle on abstract for as young as they are, because I think abstract art is probably one of the most difficult.
Which I think would surprise a lot of people who, see realism or even impressionism, and, the use of perspective in that, and, having to have this connection with reality and with the drawing skills. Like, well, abstract, anybody could do that.
Exactly. See, and anybody can do it. And a lot of people are doing it without knowing how to draw. So, but what I'm saying is, when you know how to draw and you know all the rules, the rules of the principles of drawing, perspective, proportion, you know that, and you work a lifetime or you work a career where you have to really use those skills, and then you want to begin to abstract, it is so difficult, because you have to forget everything you learned. You have to forget everything you knew. And you have to change your knowledge. And it's like Picasso said, I had to work a lifetime to learn how to draw like a child. What did you think was controversial about design and painting?
Well, we get a lot of debate on the show between different artists on people that believe that you should learn to paint. You should just be painting from your heart and your intuition and spiritually, as opposed to technical. And that's with musicians, that's with poets, that's with every art form. Should you be trained? Should you not? And the idea of working in more technical fields, doing work on demand, doing work for commission, as opposed to painting what appeals to you. There are a lot of people that feel that you should only paint or create work that is, what appeals to you, what inspires you, as opposed to what you're told to be inspired by, and whether or not there is value in that. And the idea that you worked for so many years doing something that was very technically oriented, that you had these specs, and that you had to think of the advertising value of it and to commercialize it to a certain extent, can be very controversial to people that are purely spiritual or emotional artists. But I don't think anybody could look at your art and not see, wow, you know what, that is a lot of the technique they use in graphic design, which is what makes graphic design appeal. I mean, isn't that the point of graphic design? This has to be an image that pops, catches your attention, engages you, and makes you want to know more that quick at first glance. Just flipping through a magazine, turning on a TV. You don't go to a specific place like a museum and then have to look at it for a half an hour to find out why it is that it's of value. It has to show you its value, show you its impact at first glance without preparation, otherwise it's not effective.
Right. And make you feel something too.
Yes.
But yeah, you said it all right there, Carla. This was a painting underneath there that I painted on top of that I felt was not a good painting.
Oh, you can sort of see through the white of the sky.
Absolutely. So it's a lot of energy underneath there. And it's also a lot of build-up in pesto. You can see the ridges. That's from the underneath painting. So to me, that creates a really exciting energy underneath that I just always enjoy doing. It's just one way that I...
Like even the air has movement.
Yes, right. So, but that's King Street in York, Pennsylvania, looking down King Street. I don't know if you recognized it or not. And I was trying to see another painting that has that same kind of energy underneath it.
I do love this tree. That tree looks just like a woman to me.
Yeah, it became a she tree.
The tree is a she.
And I actually felt it turning into a woman as I was painting it. This is at Faulkner Park, our park in the city.
Oh, I love Faulkner Park.
And it was in autumn, of course. And the actual park to me looked like it was on fire. I felt it was on fire. The leaves were so brilliantly, they're brilliant. They were orange and red, and that wonderful color, that orange, red, and yellow and gold. And there were no green grass. There was no green grass. So all the leaves the grass was laden with color, oranges and yellows. And I set my canvas up right there. So that was actually painted on location. But you look at the blue tree, and then you look at, let's say, this piece. That's really a different style.
Very much so.
Right.
That's true. That is very much a different piece.
Yeah, that's a very different style. Palette's even different. It's cool colors, it's blues and greens, but lots of outlines around the flowers. Or you take this piece and this piece.
Yeah, totally different color palettes.
You see what I'm saying? So
they're very defined. Your oranges and the rose, the curtains are very defined inside, whereas with the larger blue flowers, they're more like just an impression of the flower.
Right. This is more fauve. Fauve painting, the fauves would use a lot of black line around objects a lot. This is more impressionistic. So where the colors are softer and they're not softer, but they're not hard edge. I don't have black lines around anything, not much. So you can see changes because I change it up just to stimulate myself. Again, not a lot of outlines around it. The palette is very muted, not bright colors. So these little, this is part of my mini York City series, and it's different settings of York, a little bit more iconic settings of York, but they are prints. The originals sold, so I do a print line. And then these are little originals of the city, on kind of unassuming alleyways, rooftops. Really, some of my favorite things to paint are the unassuming side of the city, the back emergency staircases and the chimneys and the alleyways. And this is Falkland Park again in autumn of this year. This is a self-portrait of me. So I can make my face orange if I want to. I can throw that red patch in there. I can make my hair blue. I can do those things because I know how to do it correctly if I wanted to, but I don't want to do that anymore. I teach in that space. I teach private classes. So again, my tenure of teaching at the college level now, is aiding me now in teaching in my more private, personal, intimate space. So I teach the same skills as I did in college, the same principles of drawing, and eventually people then like to graduate to painting, but I like to start them off with drawing. Once you learn how to draw and you gain your competency in drawing, and you know about perspective, and you know about proportions, and you know how to make that correct, how to correct that and make that look correct and make it look right and satisfy you, then guess what? You can do anything. Then you can abstract it, you can distort it, you can do anything you want because you know how to do it right. This was a still life that I painted on location. I just set it up in my studio. And I particularly like these two vessels because they were highly reflective. So I wanted to go in there and capture the reflections of the red fabric, the zinnias I brought from home. And then I threw this big pattern in the background that was very Matisse pattern that he used a lot in his art. And that's one of my favorite paintings, actually. These are some of my puppies, my pooches.
No, are those actually your dogs?
No, I just paint dogs. I just paint dogs because that's a big commission line for me. People ask me to paint their dogs, and so I painted several dogs just to have to show that I paint portraits of dogs, and it has become a very popular thing for me. And I was getting ready to move out, so before I moved, I wanted to paint it, and so I looked around and I'm like, what can I use to paint this before I leave? And oh, sorry, sunflower, but you're gonna have to sacrifice yourself because the sunflower is gonna become my kitchen. So I took the sunflower off the wall and I set it on my easel and I sat there and I painted my kitchen. And I'm so glad I did because it was such a wonderful time of my painting career, and I have that good with me. But you can see the leaves underneath, sunflower leaf. You can see the energy. You see the yellow coming through there? That's the painting underneath. That's all the things, all the texture and energy coming through the cupboards. That's all the painting. You can see things underneath here. It just became a part of the top part. So the sunflower's still there. That tree's going off at both ends.
Right.
So what does that do to you? It's pulling you in. And it's like, so now your eye has to finish that tree. Your eye has to finish that limb, and it's like putting a little bit of mystery into it. And same way with this. The rose is cropping off. The statue here is going off, and it's like nothing's completely on there. And so it's engaging you. So it brings the images real close to your eye, and it stimulates you. It stimulates the eye. The misunderstanding I think that people have, they think they can start painting and start drawing and in 6 months or a year I can open a studio and I can start selling my art. And I don't think it works that way. And I don't know how to tell people that without offending them. It's like you have to put the time in. You have to work. You have to work at this. You got to put years into this and get some training behind you and get some solid knowledge behind you, get some confidence in your hands, and then you can become that concert pianist, and then you can become that ballet dancer, and then you can become that artist. Fauve is French, and it means wild beast. And that's what my art is. I'm not threatening, but I'm a wild beast with color.
Okay, these are gorgeous. And I'm already here with their creator. Now, you are not just Donna. You are the voice and the creative spirit behind Forever Flowers. But these are a very particularly special technique. This is actually originally a French technique, which is like a couple hundred years old, that these beaded flowers are created from, yeah?
That is correct. They originated in 1500 in the Renaissance days.
Whoa, even older than I thought. So where did the artwork come from? Like, what made beaded flowers just something that was happening?
It was like tailors who made robes and stuff for the kings and queens and rich, wealthy people. They discarded beads that weren't good enough to use, and those discarded beads were then taken and made into flowers that were used in bridal arrangements and funeral pieces.
Oh, wow.
And that's how they used up the discarded beads, and that's where the craft came from.
Wow. And now, so how did you discover this completely historically relevant art form and find out how you were going to reinterpret it for modern use? Like, you just decided one day, I'm going to make French beaded flowers from the time of the Renaissance.
No, I was craving to find some unique craft that I could use my fingers with, and I was looking on eBay in the old book section.
Because you used to do all different kinds of, you've always worked with your hands doing needlepoint and embroidery, painting and all of that. And then you just wanted something that was a new challenge.
Yeah. And and so I was looking at old books to see the prices of books that I had that I might sell. I saw this beaded flower book and I thought, what the heck is a beaded flower?
Right.
And why is this book selling for so much? And when I looked that up, I opened that window and I saw the book cover with the vase of beaded flowers. My mouth kind of dropped open and my fingers tingled.
The magical finger tingling, like it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. Artistic inspiration is here.
And I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to do this. And I didn't buy that book because I thought, I don't have that kind of money.
Right.
And then I found a modern day book that was a lot cheaper. And I purchased that offline and started with little tea roses and progressed from there. And
now there's all different kinds of flowers that are on here now. Like, this is definitely a gorgeous spring tulip.
Yes.
And it even has on the inside, it actually has the stamen and the leaves. So how did the movement from starting off with the tea roses and then to doing all these different projects?
Well, I made the tea roses and I made tons of them, and I was making them in all different colors. I was getting really wacky, just making all kinds of colors and then, outlining petals with the different color. And then after I did so many of them, and I would say, this is all I'm ever going to do. I'm not going to do any other flowers. I'm just going to do these roses.
I am roses forever.
And then I kind of just ran to a halt, things weren't moving anymore. And I thought, So then I thought, well, let me see one of these other flowers. And then it became very challenging and fun to make each new flower. And I did get some of the vintage, I think I got all the vintage beaded books because there's not that many of them that exist, maybe 6 of them.
Wow.
And I did get them and I did have to pay some hefty prices. But once I had it in my blood, I needed those books. And I've made a lot of flowers out of them. And of course, even the tea rose that I made from that first book, mine took on its own look. It doesn't really look like the one. And any artist who would do it would have a little bit of a different look.
So now, what is the process that you go through? And I know you said this is the first question everybody asks, because when I look at this, I'm like, that looks like it would take me 17 years, and I would probably stab myself in the fingers like 16 times. Like, how long does it take you to create a single flower?
And I usually don't sit in one setting and make that flower. So I make it in various stages, but I would say that a basic rose or that tulip type flower may take about 4 hours to complete.
So a bouquet of flowers.
It takes hours, yes.
is days of work. And then there is the sculptural element. You said each one comes out looking different based on the artist.
Yeah.
And they put their own spin on it. So now you brought some of the materials that you use. Now, so this is the steps of how you would construct a flower?
This flower, the pink lily, and it starts with your beads.
A hint of spring that we're waiting for it to come.
So it starts with the beads, and then you have your wire.
Now, is this standard floral? Is this floral wire? Is this jewelry wire?
This is it is floral wire that you can get it's by Fibercraft. It's pretty basic. They do have different gauges, and there's a certain gauge you would want for this. Okay. And then you just get your beads on your wire, and then after you have a lot of beads on there, then you make a certain petal, and for the particular flower you're doing.
So each petal has a different pattern and a different structure that goes into making it up.
You got to count, and make sure you're paying attention to what you're doing. And so it takes 6 of these petals for this lily.
Okay.
And then you need to make a centerpiece. Of course, you got to get green beads on a different wire, and you got to get the white beads on. And this is the center part of the flower. You have to make like 5 of them together for this flower. And this is what's called the little calyx, which is on the under back.
I see. So that's actually the base right here at the bottom of the flower. Okay. So you make each piece separately, individually. For each flower, you have to make all the pieces separately.
Yes. And then these are the leaves for this particular flower. And then you need a different kind of wire, which is sturdy.
So like a heavier gauge wire that's nice and thick to support the flower.
And then you start assembling your flower onto this. There's no glue used, and you just put your flower together and shape it. And this is the floral tape, which is just a little tacky. It's not like real sticky tape or anything.
But it seals everything.
You seal it up real nice, and there you have your flower. And so it's just getting the beads on the wire and shaping it. And this.
And you have all these different designs. Now, are these designs that were actually all used in the 1500s, the baby's breath and the different flowers? People are creating new designs and reinterpreting this for today's market.
And some are my own. This purple one and the orange one, they're called circus roses. I was approached to make a custom order for somebody's wedding. And what they were asking for is they asked me to make a circus rose. And I said, a circus rose? Right. I never heard of that. And I went online and I researched on Google. I put in circus rose. Don't you know there's a real rose called a circus rose?
Who knew?
So looking at that picture, I then made up that rose. And I was very happy with the way it came out. What else is my... this flower is my own creation. And pretty much all these little ones are.
I love the swirls in the flower petals. Now you do a lot of the business that you do. You actually run Forever Flowers, which you can find on Etsy, which is a great website for crafters and for people that do handmade, one-of-a-kind art and not mass-produced stuff, but actually craft it by hand.
Yes.
So people can go to etsy.com/shop/Forever Flowers, and they can have custom or they can order from the flowers that you've made. You were featured in Bride magazine.
Yes, I was. They saw me on Etsy, they saw my flowers, and then they approached me and asked me if I was interested, and I said yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, and these are absolutely beautiful. And
thank you.
So now what's next for you? Are you going to continue? Are you still in love? Do your fingers still tingle?
Yes.
When you are working with the beads?
Yes, and I it's like a therapy doing the beading. And sometimes I'm at work thinking, oh, I can't wait to get home. Just so even stringing them on, I like that part, which most people say they wouldn't have the patience to do that.
Yeah.
I like that, and doing my parts and putting it together. Actually, putting it together for some reason is my least favorite. I really like making all the pieces, but, you know, and then I put it together, and I'm still amazed at what results, you know, from this little bit of stuff.
Right. I love that from such simple, very humble beginnings, stuff that you can commonly find, you're able to create something so much more than the sum of its parts. That's just absolutely beautiful and can be kept forever. And even the fabulous new restaurant, the Front Porch Cafe, that we'll be visiting on the show within a couple weeks, has your flowers on display. They took one look at them and said,
Yes.
"Oh, well, we need to have those on display," so people can check those out there too.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely love it. Well, you know what? Because one good craft deserves another. You actually brought someone with you.
Yes.
Today. Would you like to introduce our next guest?
Okay. It is my sister, and her name is Diana Schwartz, and she does crochet, and she teaches crochet classes at AC Moore in York.
Through the magic of television, we have a complete reset of our sample display table. But just like I said that Donna made me want to go ahead and get married because I wanted to be able to have the flowers at my wedding. Well, now Diane has decided that I need to have a baby because I want everything that is on this table. So just check out some of this. Check out some of this stuff with me here. Now, this
made
hat.
the bunny hat last night.
You just made this bunny hat last. This is like this makes me want to have a baby right here with these little bunny ears. This is the cutest thing I've ever seen in the history of the universe.
Isn't it soft?
Oh, it feels so good. And what I'm noticing as I'm looking at this stuff, that one, it all has a different texture to it. You know, some of this stuff is, oh, this is like so soft and woolly, and you know, then this is very delicate and fine. And this is real thick and chunky. So everything is this all made through different types of yarn and then different types of stitches as well?
And different hooks. And
so that makes it, and like this, for example, is very finely done, which this is just the cutest thing ever. Like it makes me want to be a little school teacher at Halloween, you know, have this out on my desk. So this is very finely done, very detailed, very smooth and tight. But then, you know, we have the nice, chunky, thick, soft feel right here. And then I love the details. These shoes, as soon as I walked out and saw these shoes, I was just like, oh my gosh, that's the cutest thing I've ever seen in the history of the universe. And this is very structured. I mean, these shoes actually hold their shape. I love my Converse Chucks. They even have the tongue on the inside, which I think is just awesome. And the laces that tie, and they actually, you know, hold and maintain their shape so that you could use them for just about anything. Now, how do you make them do that? Hold their shape and structure?
Mostly the shape is because of the yarn. It's the yarn's thick enough or sturdy enough, stiff enough that it keeps it in shape. They're slippers.
That's awesome.
And you can make them in different sizes and
that's awesome.
Different patterns. I love slippers. They're cute.
Okay, so now tell me the story of the evolution of a crochet artist. How did you get involved with the craft in the first place and then evolve to such a place where you are creating absolute works of art as opposed to, because when I think crochet, I freely admit it, my first thought is the misshapen pot holders that was all I was able to progress to. And even the people that I would consider, you know, really good crocheters that I used to know and work with were Afghans, occasional, maybe a pillow, but it was all a variation on a square, right? Scarves. Is it a long, skinny square? Is it a wide square? Is it a bed-sized square? But I never even conceptualized that you could do something like this with crochet. So how did you get started and move on to doing projects like this?
Well, funny as it is, my sister Donna is the one that got me started on crochet.
Blame the sister. Blame the sister.
She wanted to make a ladybug hat and asked me what I was going to do. And I was like, I don't know, because we get together on Mondays and we craft and do shopping and all kinds of fun stuff. We call it our Fun Day Monday. And
that is so cool. I love
we have a lot of fun. And so she got me started on it. She told me to make a little swatch and make it into a little mini purse. And she gave me yarn and hooks, and I gave them all back to her and made her all these cute little purses. And then I decided I had to make something for myself, so I bought some yarn, read the pattern off there, didn't understand it, made a really wobbly scarf. And I thought, okay, I can do something else. So then I made a Afghan for a baby, granny squares. And I couldn't completely understand how to make the square, so I had to buy another book that showed how to make a granny square.
Bibles.
Exactly.
Return to the good book.
And then I figured that out through reading that book and made 2 baby square Afghans, and then made an adult square Afghan and thought I was going to be Afghans forever. So I went and bought a book that had all patterns in it for Afghans.
To the books.
And with that one, after with her help, teaching myself how to crochet, I made 7 Afghans in 6 months.
Wow.
Because I get a little obsessed.
A little bit.
And thought that was all I was ever going to do was make Afghans. And then one day I was buying yarn because I taught my friend how to crochet as well.
So you were already, as soon as you started learning it, you were like, I'm going to share this, and became a teacher and a motivator, a promoter of the art form.
And after I taught my best friend how to crochet as well, we were buying yarn, and a lady at the register at AC Moore asked what we were doing, crocheting or knitting, and we were like, crocheting, and she said to my friend, do you want to teach a class? And she goes, no, but she will, pointing at me.
So you got,
so that's how I fell into it.
You had just very recently learned how to do it, and they just asked you right at the counter, don't you want to start teaching it?
Yep. So she interviewed me, the lady at the register, her name was Debbie, and she interviewed me and said, oh, you're going to be fine. Let's pick a pattern. And she could tell just by talking to me, I guess. And I started teaching classes, and I've been teaching them for about 6 years now.
Wow.
So, and through classes, that's how I ended up with so many different items, because I was trying to draw people into classes, so I would make different things. Now, not all of these things were for class. The little kitty cat purse, I did that one in class, because that is a granny square in the front, and then a granny square on the back.
And you can really see the square. You have the round in the middle, but
and then the outside edge is square, and then I just put a side on it and put handles on it and made it into a purse because it was for an Afghan.
So it looks much more complicated than it is, but it's made of structures that are familiar to most
and very
crocheters.
Easy. Yes.
And then you're able to make it into, oh my gosh.
And then it just kept evolving, and I have hundreds of books.
Wow.
I'm not sure how many. I didn't count them. But I have a lot of, just a little obsessed.
So has that always been something that you've done for years, was having the desire to make things with your hands and be creative that way?
Crafting a lot, yes. All from my sister, yes. Every time I went to her house, we'd do some kind of crafting from little up. So, it was a lot of fun.
What made you decide to get involved with that as opposed to doing other things? What was it that drew you? And what keeps you? I mean, what still keeps it so exciting to you?
Tingle finger thing, It was just something that I knew I always wanted to make Afghans, but as far as like the other stuff, I really didn't care about it until I started teaching classes. But it's just something that is very therapeutic while you're crocheting. You can do it and watch TV and not even have to think about it. And it just keeps your hands busy, and you make all kinds of really cute stuff. And I think the thing that I love the most is when I give something to somebody and they just, they love it so much. And it's like, oh, it makes me feel so good.
And that's, when something is totally personal, it's one of a kind. I mean, there's nothing better. I have a very good friend who's getting ready to have a baby right now, and she said, yes, you appreciate getting diapers, you appreciate getting, the stack of wipes and the wipe warmer and all those things that you need, but when you get something that you're going to give to your child, that you're going to keep, you're going to pass on, that it says, this is made from someone who knew me, who knows you, who cares about you, who, this is special just for you. That is such an incredible feeling. It's like the difference between buying a piece of art off of poster.com and buying a beautiful piece of local art that is one of a kind, and that the emotion and the heart that was behind the creator. So I love the originality of all of these. And now, which AC Moore? The AC Moore that is here in York on Route 30.
Yep.
So, and people can go to the website there for AC Moore, and they can find out when your classes are.
If they go on the website, they look for store location, and they put in their zip code and then pick the one in York for that calendar. And then there's a spot, I think it's on the left or on the bottom, I'm not sure, that says events. And then when you click on that, the calendar comes up and it'll show you all the classes that we offer at AC Moore. And my crochets are on Fridays usually, so. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I love teaching, and I love when somebody gets it. You know, when they're trying and then it's like, and it clicks, you know, and they get it. I love seeing that too, so.
So that's what made you, because there is a big difference between someone who enjoys doing an art form, but then also someone who chooses to teach it and wants to share it. It's two different skill sets.
It is.
You know, we have a lot of musicians that make their living teaching, a lot of artists that also do classes, but just as many are like, no, I do this for me, and I'm not doing that for other people. So that skill set that you have to teach it, it comes from the joy of wanting to see them, you know, having that moment.
Yes.
That aha moment.
And they're so proud when they get their finished product done, and I always ask them, bring it back so I can see it. You know, if you don't get it done for class, or, you know, because sometimes it takes a couple weeks to get a project done, depending on what they're making.
Right,
so.
Right, if they're working on it.
It's exciting.
Well, I don't know. I've tried. I don't know if I have the skill.
Oh, I think I could teach you.
All right. So we all need to go to AC Moore, and anyone that wants to come in and take a crochet class with me, we're going to figure it out together. Thank you so much, Diane, for coming on, for bringing this beautiful, beautiful work. I am absolutely in love. The magic of television has struck again, and we are now back with our third crafter of the day and the final of this fabulous segment, Leathersmith. Can I call you the Leathersmith, Daryl?
I guess you can, Carla. I'll call you the poet. So,
fair enough.
You can
She's that poet girl. She's that poet
girl. Call
girl.
her the poet. It's on my phone.
Nice. And what you have brought with you is the workings of leather tooling, hand tooling of leather. And is there like an official name for the craft style?
Leathersmithing.
So let's see. I can call you the leathersmith.
I belong to the Leather Artisans Digital Guild. We're all over the world. I can get leather anywhere. Turkey, India, Japan, whatever you want.
Turkish leather
Turkish.
better
well,
than
actually,
domestic. Is it like craft beer?
No, actually, any leather in the United States that's been skinned from the cow is sent out of the country and tanned and then sent back to the United States.
Okay.
So we get it like this.
Okay.
We're like this.
So soft. Now, all right, so walk me through the process of what you do, because to go from a piece of Bambi to this beautiful painted
okay, now that's a patch or a lady's
with designs. Like I'm not seeing how we made that happen.
This is all carving here, and I do very little stamping. So the best way to really explain it is I would take a piece of leather like this, and I would put my design on it.
Okay.
Some people use a craft aid.
So it's almost like painting. You know, you might stencil, you might stamp, you might paint, but you create this design.
Yes.
And then it actually goes onto the leather.
Yes.
And then how do you make the design on the leather? Do you just draw it? Do you have to draw it on there?
No, you actually just stamp in the leather. I'll take this little piece here. And I can do it with it dry. And you just go over a template like this. If you use a template. And actually, we'll put the lines in there for you.
Oh, wow. So it engraves the lines very lightly of the pattern.
So I can take my knife, which is a swivel knife. This is
I feel like I'm in a tattoo shop a little bit.
A little bit, except the skin's not alive. And then you just take your knife and you follow your lines and you carve. Now you should actually do this when your leather is damp.
Okay, so you actually have to specially prepare the leather like a canvas, like when you have to stretch and dampen a canvas.
Yes, I dampen this, and when it gets to certain,
like a pliability,
if it's very wet,
nice and flexible.
Once I cut it out, once I have it damp, I bevel it out, and I use a beveling tool, which is it's 7 basic tools: a beveler, a pear shaver, backgrounding tool, your swivel knife. And there's 7 basic tools that you use.
Okay, so what are our 7 basic tools?
Okay, here's will be your swivel knife.
A swivel knife.
A swivel knife. You just put it in here between your two
so
hands.
the swiveling
and
shape,
I can
the
swivel
carving
around.
that you were
and when
doing.
I carve this eagle out and these flowers out.
And if you can see this at home, the detail on this is incredible. The leaves are absolutely 3-dimensional. You can see the veins. The wings of the eagle have these beautiful detailed feathers. Even the background is textured and everything is different. You can feel. It's artwork, but it's artwork that you can feel. A painting that's in 3 dimensions. It really is carved into the face of the leather.
Yes.
It's like sculpted.
Yes, it is totally 3-dimensional. And I even have, I couldn't bring all my tools. I have about 4 or 5 racks like this.
Oh my goodness.
And this is a beveler, but there's also a beveler that is a beveler lifting tool. And when I would take this and bevel along like the line, this is just a regular beveler, but my lifter beveler will actually get up underneath the leather and lift it up. So it's even more 3D.
Wow.
And the 3, basically you need a maul, a mallet. I use a rawhide a lot, but these new synthetic ones I'm having a lot of luck with. This is a backgrounder tool, pretty much like a shader.
Oh, wow. And I don't know if you can see this at home, but it's almost like a meat tenderizer on the back of this. So it has a nubbly little texture. So then this is what you would use to press in and make the background
Like I did the background
textured.
in here. It's all done with
super cool.
And then here's your beveler that you do your beveling once you do your outlining. And that's just pretty much on a 45-degree angle. And they have other ones on different angles. And the lifters that lift up just a little bit. And you just have a little round dot there.
Okay.
And then you have your veiner.
Now, what does a veiner do?
Well, pretty much you get inside the wings and the leaves of these leaves, you just can hit and just leave it.
So that does it's a piece that does some really beautiful detail work when you want to get into things.
Yes.
Well, I thought artists had a lot of brushes, but you have more tools than an artist has brushes.
And then I have the brushes.
And then you have the brushes.
Because I do have to go in and then put color to these.
Wow. Now, what's the difference between painting a leather surface? I mean, this is not necessarily the most friendly, I would imagine, painting surface. So how do you work with color when working on a piece of leather?
Well, the best thing to do is if you're carving with a piece of leather is to take a scrap of the same exact piece of leather you're working with, because you can tell by the difference of the 2 colors of these pieces that the dye is going to take different. So every piece is an experiment.
Oh, so is that because it's natural, or is it just because the background color is different?
Because this is natural, and I'm changing the pigment of it.
Okay. Okay.
So a lot of times people see my work, I'll have it on my Facebook page, and they'll see it white. Well, a lot of times it's just like painting. You'll put a primer down, or you'll paint it, and then you paint on top of it. And with dyeing this, it's a little tricky. Some places, if you don't want dye to be where you want it, is you'll take a cream and you put it on top. Oils, some people use oils. I use sheen, and you just fill it in and let it dry 7 hours.
7 hours.
Then you go back and paint, wait another 4 or 5 hours, and then you can antique it. And an antique actually is what goes into the cracks, and you can see the outlines, but you...
So this has been dyed. So this had to be treated, and then it had to be painted and dyed, and then it had to be antiqued, and then it had to be
polished and finished.
Wow, that is an incredibly... So to make one piece from start to finish, to make even like a smaller piece like this, how long would that take you?
Well, I could make 4 of them in an hour, just simply because while it's drying, I'm starting another one. And then at certain stages of the material, now braces like this and things like this, with the skulls and the spikes on it, which is big right now. Yeah, it's pretty big right now.
Makes me want to go fight somebody.
Yeah, this will put a hurting on somebody. Sorry to say, but
go ahead, mess with me when I'm wearing my
this.
bracelet.
You really don't need much except the punch holes and to set the.
So you actually set these in there yourself. I set every
screw, rivet myself.
So you are a craftsman of actually like 10 different crafts. You're painting and riveting.
Yes, I do paint.
And tooling and all of it.
I haven't painted in a while. I am on canvas. So, but I'm going to start painting on canvas again.
Now, what got you involved in working with leather as opposed to working in a more traditional medium? What made this the form of expression that just really spoke to you?
Well, actually, I've tried a lot of mediums, but when I was younger, I was the hyper child. So this was something that me and my dad did together, and we went to and took classes, and it took off with me.
So you've been doing this for a long time then?
I started at about 14 years old.
Wow.
I've done portraits of Willie Nelson, my great-grandmother.
Your great-grandmother in leather?
Indians, horses, just about anything. You bring me a picture, and I can put it on leather.
So you actually will create your own, some of the stencils and the impressions?
I do a lot of drawing myself, and then once I get the drawing the way I want it, I put it on a light box, and I trace it over so it's perfect. So when I put it over on the leather, because you don't want to mess the leather up.
Right, right.
So everything's got to be perfect, and none of my work will ever be perfect to me. That's just how it is. But one good thing with leather work, I find, if you make a little mistake on it, it's really not a mistake. Just incorporate it into the piece of work.
I do that when I'm performing poetry. I'm like, I messed that line up. Well, just rewrite it and just keep going. Just keep going.
You can't stop. You can't stop. You just got to keep on going with it.
So what is it about it that has made it something that you've continued with for this long? Like on a personal level, what does working with the leather do for you? How does it make you feel to where you've been inspired to keep experimenting with it and keep learning it and keep practicing it for that many years?
Really, I enjoy it, and it's not as much to do with the art. But one thing that really always brings me back to this is something that me and my dad did. And my dad's 86 years old now.
Wow.
So he was pretty excited when I told him I was going to be showing some of my work. So yeah, it's just something me and my dad did, and it's something that I've painted, I've done other artwork, do photography, but I just keep going back to doing the leather work. I mean, I got the tools.
And that's a serious collection.
Yes, I have quite a bit of tools at home. It's ridiculous, people. It's ridiculous. They say don't let the bug bite.
Right.
It bit.
Well, you've already described, we've got all these tools, we've got all these racks of tools, we've got the painting supplies, we've got the light box and the tools for making the stencils and the layouts. I mean, that's already way more than...
The computer for research.
Of course. See, there you go. I'm seriously impressed. And people can go to your Facebook page.
Yes, it's Daryl Leathersmith Heinle, or it's Daryl Heinle. Either one that pops up, that's me.
Awesome. And they can spot you wherever they can track you down and get some of the beautiful leather work. And we do have some images of some of the fabulous finished pieces, just as a tiny taste of the work that is available and of what Daryl does, which I know that we're looking at right now. But wow, Daryl, thank you so much for coming on the show and just showing us a tiny fraction of what you can do and what's involved in creating this beautiful traditional style of art. I'm very impressed. We have a very special video of the week this week. It was actually posted on my Facebook, sent to me from a woman who's been a longtime supporter of both me and the show, Michelle DeMeo. Michelle made this video herself, and she's asking for your help. I was happy to give mine, and I think that after you watch this video, you'll be willing to give yours too. So, ladies and gentlemen, please meet the very courageous, the very talented, and now the new cinematographer, Michelle DeMeo.
Hi, everybody. My name's Michelle DeMeo, and I'm entering the Dogfish video contest. It's supposed to be about sporting or some adventure, but this is my version of climbing Mount Everest. Okay, maybe a little untraditional, but I'll do anything to try to at least get a few votes and maybe win. I used to be an athlete, so I am still one. So here we go on my journey of climbing Mount Everest my way. Follow me along. Now stick with me. My nurses in hospice would have a fit. Don't tell them. I just got out of the care center. So, okay. I gotta don my Crocs. Can't go anywhere without Crocs. Having a little trouble, bear with me. Gearing up is hard to do, as you know. This is harder than when I kayaked 18 miles upstream in pretty good rapids years ago. Okay. Shoes check. Let's see if I can get them. Okay. Shoes. Hydration tube. Yeah, feeding tube, but I'd sport a Camelback in my back for water, but it's gotta go through there. Told you I'll do anything to win this. I showed you my peg. Hat. I don't need gloves. Let's somehow get to the chair. I'm gonna have you follow me because I'm not supposed to walk, but I'm damn gonna try. Okay. Mode of transportation. Let me get my gear. Gotta set up oxygen. Yeah, few summit without it. I don't think I should. I'm putting you on pause for a second. Here we go. I made it. It seems the access to the summit closed. Snow covered, but look what was waiting for me. I guess it still counts. I made it. Now I'm heading back down to try some. Not bad for a summit. Made good time. Not a bad view. Vote for me. If I win the trip, if Dogfish will allow, we'll go to someone who can travel and such. Bye-bye. Made it back in bed. I'm supposed to fade into black. I'm not a movie maker. I'm exhausted. Let's try this. Does this count? Fading into black. Hope so.
Thank you for joining us once again on the corner of Culture and Maine. We're so glad you joined us, and we want to hear from you. So find us on Facebook, Culture and Maine. Make sure to click like. Send us an email with your comments or suggestions. Let us know what you liked, didn't like, or what you'd like to see on cultureandmaine@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter, where you can get all the latest updates about what's coming up on your favorite shows or when new videos or photos are posted. So make sure to follow us on Twitter @CultureandMaine. You can also log on to WRCT.tv, and you can find our show website with all of our updates and latest information. You can order DVDs there, and you can find out what's going on with your upcoming shows and your favorite past guests. Please be good to each other, keep enjoying art, and thank you for celebrating the very best of York County and South Central Pennsylvania's art scene. I'm your host, Carla Christopher. Have a great, great night.
I'm really excited about this. I love the atmosphere, and I just want to know more about it.
I see it evolving, changing, growing, and I like it.
It's fleeting. Once it happens, once a song comes out, once a poem comes out, it'll never come out the same.
Something like Culture in Maine is documenting what's going on in a way that will have that lasting staying power.
It just breeds healthy growth. It's a necessity. It's a necessity, yes.